24 hours as an inmate in Atlanta's craziest jail. The very first thing you hear when you step inside Fulton County Jail is a scream. Not a small scream or someone joking around. This one is loud, sharp, and full of panic. It echoes down the hallway and makes your chest tighten. But the officer walking beside you doesn't even turn his head. He just says, "Welcome to Fulton," like this happens every day. You look around and instantly feel out of place. The air is heavy and smells like sweat, bleach, and something you can't name. The floors are wet because someone on another floor has flooded their cell. Water is running down the hallway like a small river. Inmates behind thick glass windows are banging on doors, yelling for food, yelling for medicine, yelling for someone to hear them. But nobody answers them. This is your first minute inside the craziest jail in Atlanta, and already your mind is racing. If the first minute feels like this, you wonder how you'll survive the next 23 hours. The first 60 minutes. Your first hour starts in the intake area, the place where every new inmate waits before being placed inside a housing unit. The room is cold, noisy, and packed with people who all look stressed, tired, or angry. Officers tell everyone to stand against a wall. They search you from head to toe, checking your shoes, your pockets, even your hair. It feels like the whole room is watching you, even though everyone is dealing with their own fear. After the search, they give you a plastic wristband with your name and booking number. The officer who hands it to you looks exhausted. He warns you quietly, "If anyone tries to take this, tell us." You don't know what happens if someone takes a wristband, but the way he says it makes your stomach turn. You're moved into a holding cell with about 20 other people. The smell hits you immediately: dirty clothes, old food, and people who look like they've been waiting for hours. Some men are sleeping on the floor. Others sit in corners whispering to themselves. A few stare at the door like they're waiting for someone to save them. You sit against the wall and pull your knees close. A man with braids looks at you and says, "You knew? Don't worry. Intake takes forever." He tells you that some people sit there for 5, 6, even 7 hours before they get a bed. You don't know if he's joking or serious, but nobody around you looks like they're going anywhere anytime soon. As the minutes pass, the noise gets louder. People argue over the one working phone in the room. 2 men start shouting at each other, and for a moment you think a fight will break out. Before anything happens, officers rush in, separate them, and drag one man out. The door slams shut, and the room becomes quiet again, but the tension stays. You try to calm your breathing and remind yourself that this is just the beginning. You still have 23 long hours left. Moving to the housing unit. After what feels like forever inside the intake room, an officer finally calls your name. Your legs are stiff when you stand up. Your mind is already tired even though you've barely been inside the jail for an hour and a half. The door opens and you step into another hallway, this one darker, colder, and much louder. You hear voices echoing from different units. Someone is yelling for a nurse. Someone else is arguing with an officer about his medication. Doors open and slam shut over and over again. It feels like every sound stacks on top of another, and your head starts to hurt from the constant noise. The officer walks you through a metal detector and down a long corridor lined with thick doors made of steel. Each door has a small window, and behind some of them you can see people staring out, watching every new person who walks by. You try not to make eye contact, but it's hard not to feel the eyes on you. You finally reach a gate where another officer checks your wristband again. He looks at a computer screen and says, "He's going to 2 South. The officer beside you laughs under his breath and says, "Good luck." He doesn't explain what that means, and you don't ask. In here, it feels safer to talk less. The hallway that leads to 2 South smells different, like old mop water mixed with sweat. You hear people calling out from behind the doors, asking who the new guy is, or just shouting random things out of boredom. The officer tells you to keep walking and not respond to anyone. When you reach the entrance of the unit, the gate opens with a loud buzzing sound. Inside, everything changes instantly. The noise is louder. The air feels hotter. The lights above you flicker like they're tired, just like the people in this place. A few inmates are already staring at you from the upper tier. Some lean on the railings. Others sit on the stairs. Nobody looks friendly, But nobody looks surprised either. New arrivals come through all the time. One man on the bottom level calls out, "Where you from?" You don't answer, just like the officer told you. The officer taps your shoulder and says, "Ignore him. Keep moving." You're led to a small metal door. The officer unlocks it and gestures for you to step inside. The room, your cell, is smaller than you imagined. A steel toilet. A thin mattress. No pillow. The walls are covered in graffiti and scratch marks. The air feels stale, like it hasn't moved in days. The officer closes the door behind you. That sound, the metal door slamming, echoes deep inside your chest. For the first time, you're alone. You sit on the mattress and try to breathe slowly. The noise from outside never stops. People yell down the hall. An officer shouts commands. Someone bangs on their door nonstop. You can't tell what time it is. You don't know when you'll eat. You don't know when you'll sleep. All you know is that the next 22 hours feel longer than you expected. Minutes pass. You try to settle your thoughts. Then you hear footsteps and keys outside your door. The next phase of your 24 hours is about to begin, and you have no idea what's waiting on the other side. First contact with the unit. The door opens again, and an officer tells you it's time for orientation. The word sounds official, but inside Atlanta's craziest jail, it simply means they want to make sure you understand the rules that are mostly about survival. You step out of the cell and the first thing you feel is heat. The whole unit is warm, like there's no real air circulation. People shout back and forth from different cells. Others sit at metal tables staring at the TV mounted high in a protective cage. Every sound blends together until it becomes one loud hum of noise that never goes away. The officer walks you to the dayroom. A few inmates glance over at you with quick, sharp looks, the kind people give when they're trying to figure you out without saying a word. Nobody smiles. Nobody nods. In this place, trust is something you have to earn, and first impressions matter. You sit at a metal table while the officer talks. He explains basic things: what time meals come, when showers open, how inmates make requests, and what you should avoid. But your mind keeps drifting to the people around you. Some pace the floor like they're trying to burn off anger. Some sit completely still, staring at nothing. Others whisper to each other while keeping one eye on you. Then the officer lowers his voice and says something that makes your chest tighten. Stay out of people's business. Don't take anything from anyone. And whatever you do, don't get caught up in anybody's problems. You nod, even though your hands are already sweating. When orientation ends, he leaves you in the day room for a moment. You're supposed to get used to the environment. But being in the open like this feels dangerous. You sit quietly, keeping your eyes forward. That's when an older inmate approaches you. He's not smiling, but he doesn't look angry either. His voice is calm when he says, "You new? Don't worry, just stay low. Don't talk too much." It's almost the same advice you heard in intake. You nod again, and he keeps talking in a quiet tone. This unit's been rough the past few weeks. People arguing. People stressed. Some folks don't got meds. Some just angry about life. He pauses and looks around before leaning closer. If something goes down, don't stand there watching. Move away fast. His words sink deep into your mind. He's not trying to scare you. He's trying to help. A loud buzz fills the unit, and the officer returns. It's time to place you in the general population area for the day. You follow him up a set of metal stairs to a different tier. Inmates watch you from their doors as you walk by. Some nod slightly. Some just stare. You keep your eyes down like everyone told you. The officer opens a cell and says, "You'll be here until further notice." You step inside, and the door closes behind you again. You sit down and try to steady your breathing. Outside the door, you hear two inmates arguing down the hall. Their voices bounce off the concrete walls, getting louder and sharper. A door slams. Another officer yells for someone to calm down. This jail has its own energy, fast, unpredictable, tense. You've only been here for a couple of hours, but it already feels like you've been inside for a whole day. You lie back on the thin mattress and stare at the ceiling, trying to prepare yourself for whatever comes next. The next moment comes sooner than you expect. Because in a few minutes, You hear the sound of keys again. Something is about to change. The first real test. You sit up on your bunk when you hear the officer's keys outside your door again. The sound is sharp and metallic, and inside a place like this, it always means something is about to change. The door opens and the officer says, "Dayroom time. Let's go." You walk out slowly. Your eyes try to adjust to the bright hallway lights. The noise from inside the unit feels even louder now, voices overlapping, doors slamming, shoes scraping the floor, officers giving orders. Everything feels like it's happening at the same time. As you step into the day room, you notice people grouped in different corners. Some sit at tables playing cards. Others lean against walls talking in low voices. A few stand alone, just watching everything around them like they've learned to see trouble before it happens. You pick an empty table, hoping to stay unnoticed. But in jail, unnoticed is rarely an option. A younger inmate walks past you and stares at you for a moment, not angry, not friendly, just studying you. He keeps walking, but your heart beats faster. You don't know what he saw in you or what he was checking for. In here, even simple eye contact feels like a risk. A few minutes later, two inmates start arguing across the room. You can't hear what started it, but you can hear the tension in their voices. One stands up quickly, knocking over a chair. Instantly, every head in the room turns. You freeze in place. The officers on the other side of the glass start watching closely. This is the moment the older inmate warned you about. When something goes down, move away fast. You quietly shift away, trying not to draw attention. The argument grows louder. Both men step closer to each other. Their voices echo through the room. Nobody else moves. Everyone keeps a close eye in case things get worse. Before it can escalate, officers rush in and separate them. One officer presses the emergency button on his radio. Another officer shouts for everyone to lock in, which means return to your cell. The whole room reacts instantly. People grab their items, pick up their shoes, or finish their conversations as they head toward their doors. As you walk back to your cell, you realize how quickly things can shift in here. One moment, everything is calm. The next moment, everything can explode. There are no warnings. No signs. It just happens. Your cell door closes, and the loud buzz of the lock echoes around you. You sit on your bunk, breathing slowly, trying to calm your nerves. You tell yourself, just stay to yourself. Just get through the day. Minutes pass, and the noise in the hallway slowly settles again. But suddenly you hear another sound, one that's different. It's not an argument. Not an officer. Not laughter. It's someone coughing hard. Coughing like they can't breathe properly. You hear banging on a door down the tier. Someone is yelling for a nurse. Someone else joins in, shouting that a guy is having trouble breathing. Officers rush in again. Keys rattle. Radios crackle. You watch from the small window on your cell door as medical staff hurry to the scene. This is the moment it hits you. Inside this jail, the chaos isn't just from fights or arguments. Sometimes the danger comes from health problems, stress, fear, or people simply breaking down from the pressure. When the situation calms down and the officers walk away, the unit slowly goes quiet. For the first time since you arrived, you experience a moment of stillness. But it doesn't last long. Because soon, you hear the shift bell ring. And that means the next part of your 24 hours is starting. A part that every inmate talks about. Dinner time. Dinner time, the reality of jail food. When the shift bell rings, the whole unit wakes up again. Doors open, officers shout instructions, and inmates step out into the hallway with the same tired expression, like they know exactly what's coming, but they still don't look forward to it. An officer walks door to door handing out food trays. You watch through the small window on your cell door as he pushes a cart full of plastic trays stacked on top of each other. Some inmates step out and grab theirs quickly. Others complain. One guy refuses his tray altogether. When the officer reaches your door, he slides a tray through the slot. You pick it up, and the first thing you notice is the temperature, warm in some spots, cold in others. That's normal here. You sit on your bunk and open the lid. Inside, you see a small portion of rice, a scoop of beans, and a piece of cornbread that's already crumbling. There's also a carton of juice and something that looks like cooked vegetables, but you're not sure. You take your first bite slowly. The food is bland and tastes like it was made hours ago, but hunger makes it easier to swallow. In this place, you don't really eat for flavor. You eat because your body needs something to keep going. As you chew, you listen to the sounds around the tier. Some inmates are laughing. Some complain loudly about the food. Others trade items. Someone offers their cornbread for a juice carton, someone else trades beans for the rice. It's a small reminder that even in jail, people create their own system of survival. A few cells down, you hear someone trying to warm up their food using a method called stinger cooking, a heating device inmates make from metal and wires, but the officer quickly stops them and tells them to hand it over. People grumble, and the officer moves on. Halfway through your meal, an older inmate walks by your door and glances at your tray. He says in a calm voice, "If you can eat it, eat it. Some days it's better. Some days it's worse." You nod, even though he's already walking away. His words stay in your mind. You finish what you can and save the cornbread for later. In here, saving food is normal. Sometimes you don't know when the next meal will come or how hungry you'll be later. Not long after dinner, officers call for trash pickup. People pass their trays through the slot, and you hear the clanking of metal lids and plastic trays stacking on each other. The hallway smells like the mixture of leftover food and cleaning chemicals. Then the doors start closing again, loud, heavy, echoing through the entire unit. Your door shuts, and once again, you're locked inside the small cell with only the distant sounds of conversations, footsteps, and occasional shouting to keep your mind occupied. Even though the day isn't over, you're already feeling the mental pressure. Time moves slowly in this place. Minutes feel like hours. Hours feel like days. And just when you think things will settle down for the night, the unit suddenly gets louder. Much louder. You hear someone banging hard on their door. Then another voice yelling for an officer. Then footsteps running. Something is happening again. And this time, it might be bigger than anything you've seen so far. The nighttime chaos begins. Evening inside Atlanta's craziest jail doesn't bring calm. It brings a different kind of energy, louder, sharper, more unpredictable. The banging that startled you earlier continues. Someone down the tier is hitting their door with something hard, maybe a shoe, maybe a cup. You can hear the metal echo through the entire hallway like a drum. Then you hear yelling, not angry yelling, but the kind of yelling that sounds desperate. You stand up and look through the small window. Two inmates on the upper tier are shouting for an officer, waving their arms to get attention. One of them keeps pointing toward a cell next to him. The officers finally arrive, their radios crackling as they approach. They open the door of the cell everyone was pointing at. You can't see everything from your angle, but you hear voices, fast, worried voices from the officers. They call for medical staff again. You hear someone coughing deeply, like their chest is tight. In jail, health problems aren't always dramatic. Sometimes people get sick from stress, from lack of sleep, from the pressure of being locked inside a box all day. Sometimes they just break. Medical staff arrives and works quickly. The coughing slows down, and the inmate is finally taken out of the unit. The hallway becomes quiet again, but the silence doesn't feel peaceful. It feels like everyone is holding their breath, waiting for the next problem. You sit back on your bunk, staring at the wall. It's only been a few hours, but you're already learning that nighttime brings tension. People get restless. They argue more. They remember things that stress them out. They get frustrated about their cases, their families, or just the fact that they're locked inside a cell. And in here, the walls are so thin that everyone hears everything. Every cough, every shout, every complaint, every breakdown. Suddenly, the lights in the hallway dim slightly. It doesn't get dark, just softer. It means nighttime officially started. But it doesn't mean sleep. Not here. In the cells around you, people start talking louder. Some laugh. Some argue. Some talk on the phones inside the day room before lockdown finishes. Some rap. Some vent their stress out loud to anyone who will listen. The noise goes up and down like waves. Your heart beats a little faster because this is the part of jail people talk about the most, the nighttime energy. The older inmate you met earlier said, Night is when everything gets real. Folks get in their feelings. And he was right. The whole unit feels different now. An officer walks down the hallway doing checks. His footsteps echo each time he passes your door. He shines a small flashlight through the window to make sure you're in your cell. You look away from the light as it moves on. A few minutes later, you hear a loud argument start between two inmates on the other side of the unit. The voices get louder, overlapping, pushing against each other. You can't hear what they're saying, but the tone is sharp enough to make your stomach tighten. You don't know if it will turn into something more. You don't know if officers will rush in again. You don't know if the yelling will stop or escalate. In this place, you learn fast. Anything can change in seconds. You sit still, breathing slowly, trying to keep your nerves calm. It's only nighttime, and you still have many hours to go. But just when the yelling starts to die down, you hear something else. A loud alarm suddenly echoes through the unit. A sound that makes everyone go quiet. Something serious is happening. And your 24 hours are about to get even more intense. The alarm, when the whole unit freezes. The alarm hits your ears like a shockwave, sharp, high-pitched, and impossible to ignore. Inside Fulton County Jail, that sound means only one thing. Something serious is happening somewhere in the building, and every unit must freeze until officers figure out what's going on. The yelling you heard a moment ago stops instantly. People drop their conversations mid-sentence. Some sit down quickly. Others stand still, staring at their doors. You feel your heartbeat speed up. You don't know what triggered the alarm, but you know one thing. When that sound goes off, everyone pays attention. An officer walks quickly down your tier, one hand on his radio. He shines his flashlight into every cell window, including yours. You stay seated on your bunk, hands visible, just like everyone else. Inside a place like this, you don't make sudden movements when the alarm is on. The officer reaches the end of the tier, turns around, and starts coming back the other way. You can hear voices through his radio, other officers from different sections of the jail talking at the same time. Some sound tense. Some sound confused. Some are giving short, rushed updates. You can't catch every word, but you hear enough to know that whatever happened didn't happen on your tier. It happened somewhere else in the jail. Still, the whole unit remains locked down, quiet, waiting. A few inmates talk in low voices through their doors. Man, what now? Hope it's not what I think it is. They've been on edge all week. You notice something important. Even though people talk, they talk carefully. Nobody shouts. Nobody challenges officers. Everyone understands the seriousness of the moment. After a few minutes, the alarm stops. But the silence stays. Then the officers start moving with purpose, fast steps, focused eyes. They aren't panicking, but they look alert. When officers move that way, inmates pay attention. It means something unusual happened. The officer passes your door again and says loudly, "Everybody stay in place until further notice." Your cell feels smaller than before. You try not to overthink what is happening. Inside this jail, you can't control anything except your own reactions. Minutes pass. Then more minutes. You hear radios, footsteps, distant doors opening and closing. The whole jail feels like it's holding its breath. Eventually, one of the officers announces, "Unit 2 South, prepare for movement. We're returning to normal operations." Normal operations. Two words that tell you the situation is under control. Slowly, the tension in the air begins to fade. Voices rise again. People start talking. Some complain. Some laugh. Some act like nothing happened at all. You realize something important about jail life. Even the biggest scares become routine when you live in a place full of uncertainty. But for you, this is not routine. This is one of the longest nights of your life. And the night isn't even close to over. When the officers finish their checks, the tier becomes louder. You hear someone tapping on their door rhythmically, like they're bored. You hear someone crying softly in a nearby cell. You hear someone talking about court dates, someone else asking about the phones, and another person trying to calm down a new inmate who's stressing out. The night energy returns. The noise returns. The stress returns. You lie back on your bunk and close your eyes for a moment, knowing sleep might be impossible. Inside Atlanta's craziest jail, nighttime moves slow, and every hour feels heavier than the last. You breathe in deeply and remind yourself, you've made it this far, but you still have many hours left. And the next one will bring something you haven't experienced yet. Lights out. Lights out, the hardest part of the night. When the lights finally dim, the unit changes again. It doesn't get fully dark, jails rarely do, but the brightness softens enough to signal that it's officially nighttime. This is the part most new inmates struggle with, because once the noise slows down, your mind starts racing. You lie on your bunk, listening to every sound around you. The thin mattress presses against your back, and the air feels heavy and warm. You keep shifting, trying to find a comfortable spot, but the bunk was never made for comfort. The metal frame creaks each time you move. Outside your door, someone clears their throat loudly. Farther down the tier, someone else coughs for a long time. Another inmate calls out to his neighbor through the vent. "Yo, you still awake?" A few more voices answer from different cells. People talk quietly, almost like they're trying to distract themselves from their own thoughts. The jail sounds different at night, less chaotic, but more emotional. You hear someone praying softly. You hear someone crying. You hear another person arguing with someone in another cell about something small, but stress makes every little thing feel big. Your eyes stay open. You expected nighttime to bring rest, but instead it brings a different kind of pressure. Your mind replays everything from the day, the yelling, the alarm, the searches, the uncertainty. Every moment feels heavier now that you're alone with it. Minutes pass slowly. You can't see a clock, but you can feel the time dragging. Then, just when the unit starts to quiet down, you hear a loud thud. Something hits a door hard. You sit up, heart pounding. Another thud. Then someone shouts for an officer. Not out of anger, out of panic. You get up and look through the small window on your door. 2 cells down, an inmate is banging on his door, shouting that his cellmate has passed out. His voice cracks with fear, and the panic in his tone spreads across the unit. Within seconds, the officers rush down the hallway. Their radios beep nonstop as they call for medical again. The lights in the hallway brighten suddenly as they open the door and step inside the cell. You can't see much, but you can hear the officers giving instructions, moving fast. The coughing starts again from somewhere else. Another inmate calls out, "Is he okay? Hey, y'all helping him?" The officers work quickly. The medical team arrives, and after a few tense minutes, they're able to get the sick inmate out of the cell. The hallway quiets, but the anxiety stays. Moments like this remind you how fragile everything is in here, how stress, fear, or even simple exhaustion can push someone's body to its limit. When the officers leave and the hallway darkens again, the unit falls into a strange silence. For the first time all night, it feels like everyone is trying to sleep. You lie down, close your eyes, and try to slow your breathing. You're not sure how much time passes. You drift in and out, half asleep, half awake, listening to the faint sounds around you. A distant voice sings softly. Someone whispers about their court date tomorrow. Another inmate snores loudly. Someone asks if the phones will be open in the morning. It's uncomfortable, noisy, and stressful, but your body finally starts to relax. You're not fully asleep, just in a light, fragile rest. And that's the best you can hope for in this place. But your rest won't last long, because in a little while, the morning movement will begin, and with it comes a whole new wave of noise, tension, and surprises. Your 24 hours aren't over yet. Not even close. Morning movement. The jail comes alive again. You don't know how long you've slept. It could have been 10 minutes. It could have been an hour. In jail, sleep comes in small pieces, not full rest. But you snap awake when you hear the first loud sound of the morning, the shift buzzer. It echoes through the whole tier, sharp and sudden, shaking you out of whatever light sleep you manage to get. The hallway lights brighten again, and within seconds, the noise starts to build. People wake up grumpy, tired, frustrated, or hungry. Some stretch. Some complain. Some immediately start talking to their neighbors through the vents like they've been waiting all night to continue their conversations. Your eyes feel heavy, but you sit up on the bunk because you know what comes next. Morning count. An officer walks down the hallway shining a flashlight into every window even though the lights are on. He speaks loudly so nobody misses the message. Sit up for count. Sit up. Sit up. You sit with your back straight. The officer stops at your door, checks your face and wristband, then moves on. He repeats the same steps at every cell. Count takes a few minutes, but those minutes feel long. Everyone has to be present. Everyone has to be awake. Everyone has to be accounted for. After count clears, the noise rises again. People start calling for the nurse. Some ask when breakfast is coming. Someone bangs on their door asking for a blanket because the air feels colder in the morning. Another inmate argues about not getting his correct medication last night. Morning in Atlanta's craziest jail is loud in a different way. Not chaotic like nighttime, but stressful, busy, and full of tension. Then the officer pushes a cart down the tier. Breakfast is coming. You hear trays sliding through slots. You hear complaints about the food before it even reaches your door. People argue about who got a bigger scoop of oatmeal or who got the smaller carton of milk. When your tray slides into your cell, you look at it slowly. Inside is a scoop of watery oatmeal, a small muffin, and a juice carton. Nothing special. Nothing filling. But right now, it's all you have. You eat quietly on your bunk while listening to the morning talk around you. Some inmates talk about court dates. Some talk about their families. Some talk about people who got moved during the night. Some just vent about being tired of the noise, the stress, or the uncomfortable beds. Breakfast doesn't take long. People finish fast, some because they're hungry, others because the food cools down quickly. A few minutes later, officers begin letting inmates out for morning showers and dayroom time. The doors open one by one, and the sound of movement fills the tier. This is when your nerves wake up again. You've already experienced daytime chaos, nighttime tension, and the unpredictability of emergencies. But the morning brings a different test. Being around other inmates who just woke up, stressed, hungry, and ready to release the pressure that built up overnight. An officer stops at your door. Get ready. You're heading out again. Your heart thumps. You stand up. Your hands feel cold. You know that stepping into the dayroom again means stepping into a space full of people with different moods and different motives. The gate buzzes. Your door opens. And just like that, your morning begins inside Atlanta's craziest jail. With more hours still ahead of you, and more unpredictability waiting on the other side of that doorway. The morning dayroom, a different kind of pressure. When your cell door opens again, the hallway feels colder than before. You step out slowly, trying to stay calm, even though your body is still tense from the rough night. The officer walks you toward the dayroom, and the noise grows louder with every step. Morning inside this jail has a very specific energy. Fast, restless, unpredictable. People just woke up. People are hungry. People are frustrated from not sleeping. People have court today and are stressed about what might happen. You feel all that tension in the air before you even reach the dayroom door. When you step inside, the room is already busy. Some inmates stand in line for the phone. Some are brushing their teeth at the sink area. Some sit on the metal tables talking about their charges or making plans for the day. Others just stare at the TV mounted above, not really watching, just using it as background noise. You find a spot near a wall, choosing a place where you can see the room but don't have to talk to anyone. It's safer that way. A few inmates glance at you. Not in a threatening way, just curious. You're still new, and new faces always draw attention. One man walks by and nods slightly. Another looks at your wristband and keeps walking. You remember the advice you got earlier. Talk less. Watch more. You stay quiet and take everything in. The officer in charge of the dayroom keeps pacing back and forth. His eyes never stop moving. He watches the phone line, the tables, the upper tier, every corner of the room. When his radio crackles, he listens closely, then returns to scanning the room. Then you start to notice something that only becomes obvious after spending time here. Morning arguments start small. It might be someone complaining about losing their spot in the phone line. It might be someone annoyed that the shower water is too cold. It might be someone upset that their breakfast tray was missing something. Stress builds fast when people feel trapped, hungry, and tired. You see two men talking near the microwave area. At first, their voices are low. Then the tone shifts, becoming sharper. Their hands start moving more. You can't hear everything, but you know the pattern. Arguments grow fast in this place. Too fast. An officer quickly steps in, telling them to separate. One walks away, shaking his head. The other returns to his cell door, still talking under his breath. No fight happens, but the tension hangs in the air like smoke. You breathe slowly and remind yourself to stay focused. Even simple things, standing in the wrong place, walking too close to someone, staring too long, can bring problems. A few minutes later, the officer calls out instructions for shower rotation. People line up near the door, still talking, still moving fast. A man in line turns to you and asks, "You good, bro?" His tone is neutral, not challenging. You nod. "Yeah," you say quietly. He nods back and faces forward again. Small interactions like that matter here. They let others know you're calm, respectful, and not looking for trouble. As the morning continues, you watch people go back and forth to the showers, to the phones, to their cells. The room feels like it's constantly shifting, never calm, never still. But even in the middle of all that movement, something strange happens. For a brief moment, the noise drops. People stop moving as much. A quiet wave spreads through the room. It's because someone from intake is being brought into the unit. A new face. A tired expression. Another person starting the same 24-hour journey you're trying to survive. Watching him walk in makes you realize how far you've already come. You've made it through the loud intake, the long night, the alarm, the stress, the meals, and now the morning chaos. But your time isn't over yet. You still have hours left inside this place. And the next part of your day will take you deeper into the routine that real inmates face every single day. The officer announces the next movement. Yard time. Everyone going outside, get ready. The day isn't slowing down. It's speeding up. 24 hours you'll never forget. Your 24 hours inside Atlanta's craziest jail end the same way they began, with the heavy sound of a steel door. But this time, it's opening for you. This time, you're stepping out instead of stepping in. As you walk back through the hallways, past the same flooded floors, the banging doors, the shouting voices, and the echo of officers' radios, everything feels different. The fear you felt on the inside is still sitting in your chest, but now it's mixed with something else, understanding. You understand now why people say jail changes you, even if you're only there for one day. You understand why the nights feel longer than they should. Why the noise never stops. Why the stress hits so many people at once. Why simple things like food, sleep, and safety feel like they're never guaranteed. You saw the chaos, the arguments, the sickness, the exhaustion. You saw how one alarm can freeze an entire unit. How morning brings tension. How nighttime brings fear. How every hour inside pushes your mind harder than your body. And as you reach the final hallway leading to release, you look back one last time. Not because you want to stay, but because you finally understand what it truly means to survive inside a place like this. Inside Atlanta's craziest jail, everything changes in seconds. People break down. People hold on. People try to stay calm in a world where calm doesn't exist. And you? You made it through 24 hours that felt like a full week. When the final door opens and the outside air hits your face, it feels almost unreal. The world is quiet again. The sun looks brighter. Even the simple sound of cars driving by feels peaceful. You take a deep breath, your first real breath in a full day, and you realize something important. You didn't just see the inside of one of the toughest jails in America. You survived it. You experienced the noise, the fear, the pressure, the unpredictability, everything real inmates deal with every single day. And now you know the truth. A day inside can feel like a lifetime. And a lifetime inside? That's something most people never fully understand. This was 24 Hours as Inmate in Atlanta's craziest jail. A story of fear. A story of survival. A story you will never forget.